Good afternoon, good evening, good day, everyone. Welcome to all. My name is Bertrand Derome, Managing Director of WDO, the World Design Organization. We're pleased to be collaborating with WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, in celebration of World IP Day 2024, particularly on this year's celebration with a theme on the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, given that they are a guiding principle for both United Nations and the World Design Organization and its community. Just a note on logistics, we have speakers that are both English and French speaking. So you will find on the Zoom platform transcription available and audio in French translation available for you as participants. Today, we have two main speakers for the design community, Mr. Kenneth Cobonpue, furniture designer from the Philippines, and Bibi Seck, currently in Senegal. We also have invited guests that will participate in the roundtable part of this webinar today. We have Sabrina Herzog de Souza Lima from WIPO and Asension from Dassault Systèmes and WDO Regional Advisor. We encourage you to use the Zoom chat feature to send your greetings, as well as to use the Q&A section of the platform to share questions that you might have for our speakers and panelists throughout the webinar. Thank you in advance for your contributions. Now, let me introduce a key advocate of the WIPO and WDO collaboration, Marcus Höpperger, for some introductory words. Marcus is Senior Director of the Department of Trademarks, Industrial Designs, and Geographical Indications, Brands and Design Sector for the World Intellectual Property Organization. His department is responsible for the formulation of policies and the provision of strategic direction to preserve and strengthen the role of WIPO as the principal international forum for trademarks, industrial designs, and geographical indications. The department is also responsible for the administration of the Lisbon system for the international registration of appellation of origins. Marcus, please.
Thank you very much, Bertrand. And let me join you in greeting all our participants, speakers, and panelists, and welcome them to this seminar, which we are organizing, as you said, it together with the World Design Organization at the occasion of the World Intellectual Property Day, which officially will take place tomorrow. It's a great pleasure for me to engage with the World Design Organization on the topic of designs. And let me already from the outset thank Bertrand and all his colleagues for having been such enthusiastic partners in setting up today's webinar. When I was a student, during my postgraduate studies in intellectual property, I was immediately hooked on design. That has obviously to do with the fact that design objects are beautiful and they attract your attention, and we all appreciate and admire such objects. But there's also the fact that designs are not easy to classify in intellectual property law terms. Intellectual property law categorizes IP rights according to subject matter, works of art, inventions, brands, designs, but that is not necessarily a straightforward classification. And design goes far beyond this somehow rigid and sometimes artificial classification. This is because good design combines form and function, the aesthetic and functional aspects of an object. The traditional intellectual property approach for industrial designs is encapsulated in the idea of design patents, namely a design for an article or a product. But design as a discipline goes beyond such concept. This is best illustrated by the definition of design proposed by the World Design Organization as our partners for today's webinar. The World Design Organization if you allow, is the artist formerly known as ICSID, the International Council of Design Societies. But the WTO, rethought its definition of industrial design and came up with the following definition. They define industrial design as a strategic problem-solving process that drives innovation, builds business success, and leads to a better quality of life through innovative products, systems, services, and experiences. Everything around us is design. All of the products and processes that we use in our daily lives are the result of design. The theme of the 2024 World Intellectual Property Day is intellectual property and the Sustainable Development Goals. I believe it's fair to say that our planet is under stress. Climate, health, nutrition, social and cultural development. Those are only some of areas where action is urgently needed, and the Sustainable Development Goals aim at making progress on a wide range of burning issues. However, progress on the SDGs has stalled. We at WIPO believe that intellectual property has a crucial role to play in advancing the Sustainable Development Goals. In the words of WIPO Director General Darren Tang, to harness the power of innovation and creativity for advancing the SDGs through the use of intellectual property. If you look through an IP lens, I believe design is largely underestimated, as so often I haste to add. But in reality, it will take a whole lot of good design to advance the processes that drive the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Today's webinar intends to shed some light on how design can contribute or even drive sustainable development. On behalf of the WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, I'm very grateful to our co-organizers, the World Design Organization, for having accepted our invitation and for supporting the webinar. Our thanks and appreciation go out to Kenneth Cobonpue, and Bibi Seck, as well as to Asension and to my colleague Sabrina Herzog. Thanks and appreciation also to the WDO team, Bertrand, Dorothy, and to my colleagues at WIPO, Marina, Jess, and Mariam. I hope you will all enjoy the webinar, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Marcus. Thank you for that great also introductory word on WDO and our history as ICSID. It is quite some pride for us to be a longstanding consultative organization of WIPO. As for us, our partnership with international agencies on such important topics are important for us to accomplish our mission. And we hope through design, we can also help accomplish missions of such organizations around the world. I would like to share a couple of words from our president, Thomas Garvey. Also thanking this collaboration that we hope to build and make stronger through time. It is definitely an issue and a topic of importance to us. There is this perception sometimes that intellectual property is something technical. And I think you might suffer the same issue that designers suffer sometimes, being perceived as the ones putting a nice line on a product. But we do need to understand the depth and importance of both fields and how we need to collaborate together, addressing some of the big issues that we are now facing moving forward. Sustainability, a theme that we're addressing today, is of key importance, but also sometimes looked at through the lens of environmental sustainability. But there are multiple pillars to our sustainability as a society, of which, yes, economy is part, but also social and cultural sustainability. And here is also a great field of collaboration between intellectual property and design, where we need to work together to be able to promote more sustainable ways of living, to sustain also our social and cultural heritages that needs to be promoted and therefore needs to be promoted properly. With our current societies and technologies becoming more and more complex, the topic of design is also expanding into new fields, going way beyond the product, but also addressing service, system, and user experience issues, which all interact, as you mentioned, in every aspect of our everyday lives. And they do impact our behaviors, our living, our quality of life. And therefore, we do need to address mindfully all those aspects if we want to be able to design a better future for all of us. Now, without further ado, let me please introduce our first speaker, Kenneth Cobonpue, a renowned industrial designer from Cebu, Philippines. Lauded for his unique handcrafted designs and his commitment to preserving a cultural heritage in furniture making. Pushing the boundaries for design, he has been recognized as the first Maison et Objet Designer of the Year for Asia and was dubbed Ratan's Great Virtuoso by Time. His contributions to Filipino design and culture, advocacy for design education, and his continuous mentorship of emerging talents has earned him the highest honor awarded by the Cultural Center of Philippines. Now, Kenneth, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Bertrand, and hello, everyone. Hello from the island of Cebu, Philippines, and I'd like to thank everyone for attending tonight. And I hope to share with you a small story about how I design and build furniture, lighting, accessories, putting together my culture, my country's resources, and our skills to put together and share with the whole world, to share something that's unique to the whole world. So please allow me to share screen. Okay. Yeah. Can you all see that? Hope that's working. Okay, yes. So yeah. So this is me, and that's my mother. That's me before I had hair. And my mother was an industrial designer, was an interior designer who made furniture actually literally at the back of our house. And that's how I grew up, with all the craftsmen, with all the people making furniture really at the back of our house, So my childhood was spent playing with building my own toys from the materials that were leftover materials that were made for furniture. So this is my mother's design. She was a designer who invented a new technique of working with rattan, for which she has an invention patent till today. So I grew up in this factory, and coming from the Philippines, we are a furniture producer, just like China is today. And many of the things that we design and we produce go out under different brands, under different names abroad. And so as a result of that, the intellectual property was always kind of a shady deal, in that even if I designed it and I made it, I'm just a manufacturer. So no credit was given to the creator or to the designer, because it went under all these different Western brands. So I thought that was very unfair. And it's still a practice that's, it's very prevalent today. So I created my own brand under my own name, which was really unheard of. And up to today, there are really very, very few Southeast Asian furniture brands. So this was a struggle for me, but I persisted because I felt it was right and it was fair to be credited, to be known for your designs. So I made everything under my name, which was Kenneth Cobonpue. Not the easiest name to pronounce, But I remember asking my American partner whether I should pick another name. And he said, well, we'll know if you're successful because the world will learn to pronounce your name. So I was very inspired by nature. I studied in Europe. I studied in Italy, Germany, and New York. Then I came back to the Philippines, where I took over my mom's factory and transformed it. So I'm very, very much inspired by nature, by forests. I wanted to create something that was different, new, and I found what made nature beautiful was the fact that a forest is actually dense, but when you go through it, you know, it actually has layers and layers of transparency, and it's very beautiful when the light comes through. So my first design was this little cube, like a very architectural piece of furniture called the yin and yang, made out of steel and rattan. And I was playing with this principle of transparency, which was actually just right for the tropics, because when you sat in these chairs, the wind would pass through. And when you put them in a balcony like this, it allows the light to come through and it doesn't block the view. So I began to create the different pieces that comprise this collection. This yin and yang. So this was in 1997, actually. And then I was inspired by things that I grew up with, you know, baskets in the market. So I made the design similar to a basket called the Baloo, named after Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book. I'm sorry, maybe I'm speaking too fast. And I realize we have an interpreter, so I'll speak slowly. So as you can see from this chair, you don't, that even the structure has to be designed because you see through it. And so just like that forest, just like that nature that you see, there are these layers that come through. And I used natural materials that were around us, in this case, rattan and abaca. My third design was a very, very sculptural piece of furniture. And it's made out of a hand-sculpted frame of steel with abaca. And as many as 3,000 knots are used to tie the abaca to the steel frame. So it's actually very organic design. And as you see here on the balcony, it has the same principle that you actually see right through it. It has a lightness to the design, but it's actually very sturdy and very strong. So I'm inspired by things around me, our culture. So one of my designs was inspired by fish traps. And this is a design called the Amaya, and it's inspired actually by a fish trap. When I came out with this design, the press said it was like trapping a hurricane inside a cylinder. And as you can see, when I put these designs on the floor, when the sunlight hits it, it creates actually very beautiful patterns and shadows. So I live in Cebu. It's in Thailand, and fishing is a very important part in the life of the people. So this is dragnet. This is like a fishnet, actually, that's frozen in time. Yeah. This is the dragnet chair made out of steel and cotton. So still very inspired by culture. I've always been fascinated by people who live and work on their boats the whole day. So I made this design called the Voyage Bed. because I believe that when you sleep, you take a voyage to a world of dreams. And then you come back the next morning. So this is the voyage bed. In fact, this is the bed that probably got me into mainstream media, because Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie happened to buy this bed, and everybody knew about it. Okay. I hope it wasn't responsible for their breakup, but it's still with Brad until today. So my work is a celebration of craft. And with that, I want to show you a chair that won an award in New York for craftsmanship called La Luna. And this is how it starts. So as you can see, it's all very sustainable. It uses material made out of rattan. Actually, these are reject rattan. So these are third-class rattan pieces, vines that are not used for furniture. So they form the core, and then I take it out from the shell. And then I put wooden legs on it like this. And then I put a layer of recycled jute sack, and then recycled foam, and another layer of recycled jute sack, and then the weaving starts. So after about, I think, 48 hours, the chair is done. So the beauty about this design is that there are two patterns, one bigger one on the outside and a finer one on the inside. And now the craftsman has to stitch them together like this without any seam. So this is a skill that is actually dying in most parts of the world, and also actually in my country. And the average age of the weaver is 50 years old, actually. And their kids are no longer working with their hands. So it's very important that we keep these cultural traditions alive through our work. This is called the La Luna, and it's still one of our best-selling chairs today. Now, this is another chair made out of wood. And I know that there are a lot of designs made out of wood. This one is like building a miniature house that is cut at several angles. It's joined very precisely with dowels. And in our workshop of 300 craftsmen, only 2 can make this chair. So this is the tilt chair. This is another design, which actually was very difficult to do. I'm just asking, can you hear the sound from the videos?
The sound of the videos are a little bit choppy, but it shouldn't matter.
Okay. 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 Yeah. All right. So, yeah, this is the tail. Yeah. So inspiration actually comes from everywhere, right? So an empty Coke can became the inspiration for a chair called the Lola, which won Asia's highest award for design, called Design for Asia Award. And it's similar technique to boat building, where you have ribs and you put the material then over it. In this case, though, I exposed the material, and it's made out of rattan. This is called the Lola. And then now we use recycled PE to replace the materials to make them suitable for outdoors, just like this. Yeah. This is called Apollo, and it's like a treehouse. So blades of grass became the inspiration for the Yoda chair, made out of rattan. Bowl of noodles became the noodle chair. And even dim sum steamers, you know, I thought that they were very beautiful. They became coffee tables. And this is another project using recycled scraps and waste material in the factory floor. So we made it like a rocking stool called Harry. So this is Harry. This is Harry in its natural habitat. So I'm inspired by everything from structures like Ferris wheels to hummocks to actually the spirit, the culture of people working together. That's a design called Little People. This is another design called Village. Okay, it's like a light, and it's really inspired by villages, not very different from those that you see in Switzerland. Yeah. So I've always been fascinated by knitting. Let's see, this video doesn't play. Oh, here, okay. Right, yarns. And so I made different designs now that use less of the natural fibers like rattan and actually use fabric, you know, recycled fabric to make into plush tubes like these. So this is a design called Cabaret, and this is a design called the Bloom chair. The Bloom chair was a challenge to make because it required a lot of skill to actually make it. It's like making a gown. And although there's a lot of designs using fabric, we had to make something that was different. And so we made a chair that was actually required a lot of skill, you know, similar to those old gowns that you see that women used to wear, where there was structure and it would hold the shape in its place. So this is the Bloom chair. This is a launch by Gucci of their perfume where they used the Bloom chair. This is Leaf. So it's very much inspired by nature. And this was a chair that I created during COVID, during the pandemic, where there was nothing much to do. So I used to take walks in the park just near our house. So it's actually like a literal leaf, like a leaf sofa. So these are some of the other collections that I did over the last couple of years. This is my version of the Peacock chair, which won an award also in Las Vegas at the most important, it's called Hospitality Design. This is actually a chair that has reference to our culture because we have a peacock chair. Some of the other designs, this is also created during COVID when we just wanted to fly and just escape. This is like a balloon chair. And this is also the same chair actually, which is inspired by our islands, by the cliffs. Yeah. And it was perfect actually during the pandemic because you all face away from each other. Yeah, so this is another table inspired by macrame, crochet. So I designed other things also like transportation. I joined this exhibit before in 2005 and it was very difficult to enter. So I made this car made out of bamboo and rattan. It's a concept car, which I created for the fair. This is called the Phoenix and it's made out of carbon fiber, bamboo. And I wanted to put an electric engine in it, but there was no time. But it's a concept that is actually went to a university in Germany where they actually studied the effects, you know, what are the possibilities of putting natural materials together into cars actually. And this is the team that built it. So this car made its way around the world. It was exhibited. It became the cover of a very important book on sustainability called Post-Petroleum Design, published in London and New York. It was also one of Belgium's biggest bank used it for their ad called "Tomorrow is what we make it." So this is a tricycle that I made. Yeah, this is a tricycle in Paris. So this is a romanticizing the trishaw, which we all know in Asia. This is my bicycle made out of bamboo. And this is just a project with Disney called Star Wars. Just wanted to show you because it's a fun project. And this is a TIE fighter, which I did. So this is did this for 2 years. It was a very limited run. So this is the little people now. They became Jedi, and the red Jedi there represents the one that went to the dark side. It's a light. So we as a business, we distribute all around the world. We have offices also, and we make everything in Cebu, in the Philippines. So these are just some of our showrooms in Manila. This is a bar I did about 15 years ago, actually made out of bamboo, recycled bamboo metal, and it's lit. It's very beautiful. It's lit from below with onyx. These are just some of the projects that we do around the world. So we do these structures also, like for Nobu. This is in Portugal, in Greece. This is in Costa Rica. Yeah, and I exhibit still all around the world. This one's in Paris. Yeah, and that ends my presentation. But if you have time, I just want to share with you a video of just like all the movies that we've done. It's pretty short, and that's going to end my presentation here. Let's see. Here.
Someone own taco. What are we doing?
Cheap. Dewy. Wow. Everything is so woke these days. It's out of control.
Yes.
Love you. Yes.
That's my squad. Never would have made it through life without. Jovi! Marley! Marley!
What do you propose we do? The high table accepts your field.
Spot on. Spot on. Well, so far, in my book.
Okay, that ends my presentation. Thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone for that opportunity. Oops.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, Kenneth, for
Just,
sharing the story behind such poetic work that you do. I think it's quite inspiring for our attendees to see how your work is really embedded in local culture, but your poetry pushes you to revisit both the craft techniques, the material boundaries, and becomes very, very innovative. And it also shows us different fields of how sustainable, social, environmental, and cultural aspect can be addressed through design. So let me now welcome our two guests for the roundtable part and discussion of this session. We have with us, as mentioned earlier, Sabrina Herzog. She is the project manager and partner engagement of the WIPO Green Team at WIPO. In this role, she is responsible for building partnerships with actors active in the sustainable development space and managing projects in the areas of climate change and food security in Latin America and Asia. Before joining WIPO, Sabrina worked in other UN agencies across a range of sustainable development fields of work, particularly promoting partnerships between artisanal business in developing countries and international fashion brands using fair trade ethical fashion practices. So welcome, Sabrina. Also joining us for this Q&A session, Asension. She is the Worldwide Vice President of Design Experience at Dassault Systèmes, the global leader in innovation software. She has been leading and inspiring teams, creating and implementing design strategies, and driving innovation and transformation for enterprises and society for over 15 years. With a strong background in both automotive and digital industries, she is skilled at designing and delivering best-in-class solutions that leverage the power of virtual twin technology, big data, and artificial intelligence. Her mission is to enable industry and consumers to shift to a more sustainable and circular economy by reducing waste, optimizing resources, and enhancing customer value. As a former board member of the World Design Organization, she contributed to the strategic plan and execution of global programs that strive to create a better world through design. So welcome, Anne, as well. Now, before we dig into the questions from the audience, I don't know if you have first comments or question that you would like to address to and or with Kenneth while I go through the Q&A section with the help of Jess, who will help me in that role.
So it's open to us. This is amazing. This is just incredible. I'm coming from the view of the big enterprise, the big economy, the mondialization that you will be very critical at the very beginning. And I completely agree that it's exactly what designers does. You were focusing on this wonderful creativity in leveraging vernacular knowledge and skills from Philippines, but also from what designers do, you know, being just amazingly creative with what we have on hand, just like taking things from the ground. My question to you is, you focus a lot on your product, but in reality, what you are doing is changing the economy from like a take, make, and waste economy, very linear, in which, you know, everybody just extracting values, including your knowledge and know-how from Philippines for big brands. To me, you know, what is your take or your willingness to actually showcase more what I call the infrastructural economy behind the economy that you put in place. Typically, what you do is bringing very interesting new knowledge, but the problem is still in the end. You were very clear. You were saying the skills are basically disappearing. How we are bridging, what you do in a new economy, like a regenerative economy, in which that the model of production will be yours and not the current, the one we are, that is completely on a dead path. So are you looking at your factory, at the way your people work, looking at what could be just scale up or being the seed for a new economy?
Yeah, I think that it's very important because it's also related to our culture and our skills, right? Our tradition is we have the skills for woodworking, craftsmanship, textile, everything, right? Making things by hand. And it's very important that for these to live, designers like us still create designs and give craftsmen a chance to put their skills to use and earn a good living from it. So I believe that it becomes actually more challenging and more difficult over time, right? Because it takes more than me. It takes more designers to truly create an industry, and it's very difficult when you don't have that infrastructure or government support, such as maybe what you find in the more developed countries. But I really try to do my best through education. So we teach, because we have no formal industry to teach these weavers, right? We do it all on our own. So we take in a younger generation and teach them and hope that it's passed on from one generation to the other. But there are actually many things that need to be done, in terms of creating this whole infrastructure, so that to make sure that our culture, our traditions, the skills, this kind of handmade economy, that they still can go on, for many years down. Yeah, I hope.
Yeah, no, you do great. My question is probably that we are missing link, and maybe I will let the audience to interact. But the missing link is we agree. We designers know how to basically transform the traditional vernacular knowledge and skills into value. You demonstrate it, right? But how that exact equation is actually the new equation for tomorrow's economy. It requires new policy. It requires that government is actually believing that there can be another economy that could be delivering quality of life, jobs, quality job, and at the same time being sustainable. But to
exactly.
do so, yes. Designers need another lift, another level of action toward the policy.
Yes. And in my country, perhaps because there's a big emphasis now on tech, right? Because tech is like it's a multi-billion valuation, so everybody's now into it. Everybody's into tech, and all the governments are investing in that. So maybe this economy, that this traditional economy of making things by hand, producing things, becomes left behind. And I actually look at all the design, the fashion houses, these ateliers, where they take pride in their work and they make things still very, very well. And that's my inspiration for, going ahead.
You says it right. If we designers are not being an actors in the tech industry, they will be disclosing the wrong messages and probably providing the wrong tools and not the right possibilities that designers are inventing. I will be keen to actually continue this conversation, but I need to leave room. But specifically, the patrimony lake, the variation you make on very few methods, but very well-established method in your production manner. But the way you are tweaking and regenerating by creativity is still resigning on knowledge that could be, I will say, encapsulated into tech. And that's a question that probably will deliver this famous economy.
And if I may, thank you both. Talking about production and techniques, we have Jess Honkulada with us, who will help me get some of the participants' question out here. We have some regarding that aspect. Jess, would you like to share some of the questions we've had from our audience?
Hi, Bertrand. I'm Marina. I'm taking the floor in the plano. It's not a problem to mention that we've got interesting questions. The first one from Stella. Hello from Barbados. Thank you, Mr. Cobonpue. Can you expand a little more on the recycled materials you used for the Bloom chair and the material inside the La Luna chair, for example?
Yeah, so the Luna chair uses a core of rattan. Rattan is a vine. It's actually in the forest. So much of the rattan is also classified according to, just like wood, right? If there's any defect, there's any beauty, or it's, then it's thrown out and not being used anymore. And because it's a part of, it's a core, it's an inner structure. So we use all that they use for typically lower value goods like baskets, and we use that to make the core. And actually, it's cheaper to make a core out of resin. It would be more efficient, but we chose to, although it's more expensive, we chose to do it still using very sustainable materials. Yeah. The Bloom uses microfiber. It's actually no different, no different from any other upholstered product there. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And the next one might be addressed to you, but also might be of interest for Sabrina as well. So, Marina.
Yes, please. The second question is about trademark. So, Kenneth, did you trademark your brand or each and every design of your brand products? What is your advice on how to secure foolproof IP rights over your works, and also any infringement stories you can share that will be helpful for us to know about and mitigate against?
Yes, so we do, well, we have the copyright, right? And for some of the more proprietary designs, we apply for patents. But in truth, it's really very difficult to enforce, right? Because you have to file a case against the manufacturer, and I've always advocated that as long as we do not hold the person also using the furniture responsible, it's really difficult to enforce it, right? In the software industry, you can go after the user, right? But somehow, when it comes to industrial design, that is more difficult. And so it's very difficult to enforce. When I go sometimes out in Asia and I see hotels and I see copies of my designs, you can never hold, although they know, probably the owner knows that they're actual copies because my designs are quite popular, especially in this part of the world. You cannot hold them responsible, so you have to go after the factories, which is kind of impossible, right? So that's the truth. And that's a difficulty in enforcement. And I think no one in my country has enforced these more than me. I have a lot of lawsuits. I'm always on television. I'm always in the news, against this case, So, but it's really, in truth, it's a difficult game.
So, Sabrina, would you have any comments on that hot topic for some designers like him?
So I'm actually not an intellectual property expert. I'm actually coming from a sustainability background. So maybe what I will talk a little bit about is the experience that we have at WIPO in working with supporting right holders to not necessarily to enforce their intellectual property rights, but to share best practices on how to build relationships, how to explore ways to collaborate, let's say, between indigenous peoples and different types of companies. So we do have on the traditional knowledge division a lot of work that provides normative policy and also capacity building activities that support the work of indigenous and local communities. And I think that is very much related to the cultural aspect of sustainability that Ken was talking about. And one of the tools that we have is this best practice guidelines, where you can, if you're interested in the cultural aspects of sustainability, it can be a great resource. We also have some special reports that map certain innovations, like, for example, how patents can contribute to progressing and achieving the SDGs. So you can see the patent trends all over the SDGs. And we also do the work of WIPO Green, the team that I work on, which really supports global efforts to address climate change. And we do that through our database, which is the largest database that the UN has on different technologies. We have our network of partners and our acceleration projects, where basically we connect somebody, be it a person or a company, with an environmental challenge, with a technology provider who has a potential solution for that challenge. So we support this green tech deployment or transfer in a very specific geographical location. So let's say in Latin America, we work in climate smart agriculture. In China, we work on environmental issues in cities. In Indonesia, in the palm oil industry. So it's really, these are some of the ways that we have found to more do supportive work to enable the innovation ecosystem to help intellectual property rights. So if going back to your question, it's more the backbone that we are working on and being supportive of.
If I may, just on that particular topic about the copy, I think this is a critical thing, you know. The traditional way is to protect the model. What can you deliver? It's so outstanding. It just lead people to copy. I was more thinking about protecting your knowledge and know-how at the production level. Don't think about the property as the model, the way it looks, but much more about the code that just allow you to actually create the variation of your creativity. Because at that level, you can align the guideline, the pattern that Sabrina was talking about, you know, on SDGs or whatever. And maybe your business model, I know you're not a business person. We designers are not business person, but a business person would say, well, you know, it's good that you are creating the equity with those beautiful creative chair, but in a much more basic way on the economy and business. Maybe you would be having another way to provide those skills and competency, and a much put those that are underneath on the forefront. By just protecting them, they could be coding, and you can create a route. I mean, and generating revenue in the way people will be using them. So instead of copy your model, you will have, and you will be providing the possibility for you to grow the skills and the capacity that are sustainable for the new production, for the new economy. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that, but it's just really a shift in the way we focus, you know, instead of focusing on the product and the chair. That is a great thing for the equity. You need to also focus about what makes really those chairs so fantastic on the top of the creativity. It's the skills of the people, as you demonstrate so nicely with the, you know, those little, you know, silhouette coming together.
Yeah. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Sabrina and Kenneth. Maybe a last quick word before we close this section with Kenneth. Thank you again so much. We've got a question from the audience regarding what role can WDO play into contributing to more sustainable design education. I just want to mention that WDO is a membership organization. Our community is strongly linked. We have over 80 design schools within our community that are exchanging and learning from each other, from what they are doing, some of them working on joint projects, helping to understand how schools from Americas and India were working together and exploring different cultures and and know-hows and learning from each other. We also have members like Dassault Systèmes developing sustainable design tools that are helpful to the design community. We are there to share those stories with the community. So it is our role to promote the best practices in design. For us, sustainability is a transversal mission and ambition that we have throughout all our programs, and a lot of our educational members do organize World Industrial Design Day events related to sustainability. So we do encourage you to join the community. Our members get as much as they invest in that community, and we are thankful for all of that. So thank you for the community on that. Once again, thank you so much, Kenneth, for joining us today for your talk. It was definitely inspirational. I see in the chat many praises of your work. It's poetry and it's both. You show that we can do good business with poetry, inspiration, culture. So thank you for sharing this with us today once again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you too. Thank you, Anne, Bertrand, Marina, Sabrina, and thank you everyone attending. It was a real pleasure to be with all of you here tonight.
Thank you so much. Now, moving to the second part of our webinar with our second keynote speaker. We're very pleased to have joining us today Bibi Seck, the co-founder of the award-winning design and innovation studio Birsel Seck, and the founder of Dakar Next, a design studio laboratory in Dakar, Senegal. Bibi was born in Paris and spent his formative years in London, Paris, and Dakar. He received his master's degree in industrial design in 1990 from ESDI Paris. Bienvenue, Bibi. As you will see, Bibi will be speaking in French. So for those of you who want to benefit from translation, please use the platform where the translator will do the translation. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bibi.
Bonjour tout le monde. Bon, merci de m'accueillir. D'abord, je voudrais dire à Kenneth que son travail est extraordinaire. J'aime beaucoup les images. Je ne le connaissais pas avant. J'aime beaucoup les images qu'il a montrées. Et s'il m'invite aux Philippines, je fais mes valises et je m'y rends dès demain. Alors, pour ma part, quand je pense design et sustainability, je dirais qu'il faut pas se voiler la face. Je pense que moi, je suis un designer diplômé depuis 1990. Si on me demande de dessiner une voiture qui est à 100% polluante, bon, je saurais le faire. Si on me demande de réaliser un meuble ou un système de bureau en plastique, 100% en plastique, non recyclable, etc., je saurais le faire. Donc, je pense que ce qui est important, c'est de savoir, c'est que le design est une discipline et qui est une discipline au service de la population, des sociétés qui nous entourent, d'éventuelles sociétés qui ont besoin de trucs, mais il faut comprendre que le design, pour moi, est une discipline. Évidemment, bon, j'ai réalisé quand j'ai commencé ma carrière, j'ai dessiné des voitures. Après, quand j'ai quitté au Renault pour aller m'installer aux États-Unis et créer cette agence de design avec mon épouse Aïcha Birsel, on a travaillé pour des sociétés comme Herman Miller, Target ou même Ikea. J'ai dessiné des trucs pour Ikea. Mais je veux dire que c'est pas le designer n'est pas on n'a pas assez de pouvoir. Voilà. Nous sommes nous avons évidemment notre propre laboratoire. Un designer artiste, il serait au fond de son jardin, il pourrait créer des objets à base de plastique recyclé comme je le fais à Dakar, ou à base de canettes de coca, de canettes de boisson qu'il prendrait pour créer de nouveaux trucs, machin. Mais il faudrait que je pense que les organisations, les gouvernements, enfin, que tout le monde se décide à dire, bon, OK, maintenant, un peu comme le tabac, si demain on veut plus que les gens se bousillent le poumon en fumant des cigarettes, on devrait dire à tout le monde, bon, maintenant, il est interdit de fumer dans certains pays. Je vois qu'en Angleterre, là, je crois qu'il y a une loi là, qui est en train de naître là-dessus. Je pense que que les designers sont vraiment et il faut considérer le design comme une discipline et une discipline qui, dans un environnement propice, pourrait créer des objets durables qui pourraient pallier à les problèmes de pollution sur la planète en apportant de nouvelles solutions. Je pense qu'il n'y a pas assez de peut-être que je me trompe, mais je pense qu'il n'y a pas assez de cellules créatives dans les endroits où de grandes décisions se prennent. Excusez-moi. Donc, je pense que ça, c'est... Bon, moi, je suis à Dakar. Bon, le design, il faut éduquer tellement de personnes sur le design au Sénégal, mais une de mes préoccupations au Sénégal, c'est de démocratiser cette discipline. Démocratiser cette discipline, c'est-à-dire que tout le monde comprenne que même même un stylo a été conçu par un designer, qu'une voiture a été conçue de la même façon qu'une voiture a été conçue par un designer, mais que derrière aussi, il y a toute une équipe. Il y a des ingénieurs, il y a des ergonomes, etc. Donc, c'est très utile, si vous voulez, de démocratiser le design parce que ce que je vois, moi, dans les pays du tiers-monde, en tout cas dans le pays comme le Sénégal en Afrique, c'est qu'on considère encore le designer comme une élite, quoi, quelqu'un qui est trop cher, quoi. On me dit, oh, Bibi, toi, de toute façon, tu es designer, tu es trop cher. Mais c'est faux. Et beaucoup de gens, d'ailleurs, beaucoup de designers, euh, s'appuient là-dessus pour devenir des stars, quoi. Alors qu'en réalité, la star dans notre domaine, c'est pas le designer, c'est l'objet. Donc, moi, j'arrive à Dakar, qu'est-ce que je fais? J'observe qu'il y a énormément de plastique et qui est recyclable. Je trouve aussi des organisations qui ont commencé à collecter le plastique, à le classer par couleur, le nettoyer et le broyer. Et je dis, tiens, et que à partir de... C'est curieux parce que la personne que j'ai rencontrée qui utilisait ce plastique recyclé, c'était pour réaliser des fosses septiques en plastique rotomoulé, mais ne pensait pas faire des meubles avec. Mais quand j'ai vu la qualité graphique de ce que ça pouvait donner l'utilisation de plastique recyclé, je me suis rapproché d'elle, c'était une dame très gentille. Je me suis rapproché d'elle pour lui dire, bon, on pourrait peut-être faire des meubles rotomoulés en plastique recyclé. Alors, bien entendu, c'est pas une technique que j'ai inventée, le rotomoulage. Euh, le recyclage du plastique, je ne l'ai pas inventé non plus, ça se fait ailleurs. Mais l'environnement dans lequel je me trouvais m'a encouragé à développer des produits en plastique recyclé. Bon. Après, il y a le domaine de l'éducation. Ce que je dis ici dans mon pays, je leur dis, OK, quand on fait un parallèle avec les pays de l'Ouest, les pays développés, notamment comme la France ou comme les États-Unis, quand vous êtes en France, vous avez des universités publiques qui forment des économes, des universités publiques qui forment des avocats, des magistrats, des pharmaciens, des docteurs, mais vous avez aussi des universités publiques qui forment des architectes et des universités publiques qui forment des designers. Dans nos pays, ceci n'est pas encore rentré dans nos mœurs. On a des universités pour former des médecins, pour former des des pharmaciens, pour former des lawyers, des gens dans le domaine du droit, mais on n'a pas d'école publique pour former des créatifs. Donc, et j'espère que WIPO pourra m'aider à véhiculer ce message, mais comment peut-on prétendre construire un pays aujourd'hui si on ne sait pas former nos propres architectes et qu'il faut faire appel à des architectes extérieurs pour le faire pour nous. Bon, je réfléchis surtout à voix haute, peut-être que mon discours ne sera pas très construit, mais c'est un ensemble de choses auxquelles je suis particulièrement sensible et j'espère qu'on pourra trouver des progrès adaptés pour ça. Lorsque je vais, par exemple, au, au, au Salon du Milan ou dans certaines foires d'immeubles où on a ce que j'appelle des petites entreprises qui mettent en valeur le travail d'un designer plutôt que le produit, je dis, tiens, c'est marrant. Nous, en Afrique, on n'a pas vraiment besoin de designers stars. On a surtout besoin d'objets stars qui apportent des vraies solutions à nos problèmes. Et il y a plein de sujets, et j'invite même les designers du monde entier à venir en Afrique, mais il y a plein de sujets qui méritent que nous ayons beaucoup plus de créatifs pour trouver des solutions. Et des solutions qui pourraient repartir en Europe et être appliquées également en Europe. Donc voilà, globalement, si vous voulez, mon avis sur le design réutilisable ou sustainable, mais en gros, je crois que c'est ça. Je pense que si vous avez des questions, je serai naturellement très excité à y répondre.
Très bien,
je suis sûr que...
Merci beaucoup, Bibi, de nous avoir partagé ces réflexions et de nous renvoyer certains challenges en termes d'organisation internationale pour la promotion de l'importance du design auprès des décideurs politiques. So thank you so much. I know you, and I will ask both our guest panelists, Sabrina Herzog and Asension, to join us back again for this round of Q&A discussion. I know both you, Bibi, and Asension have shared work in the field of automotive with some of the challenges that come to within this industry, an industry that is pointed in terms of its role regarding sustainability, but that also has taken some of its responsibility to address some of the issues related to that field. Maybe, Anna, I know that we might have turned off your camera. You might need to turn it back on to join us back on the panel. Yes, thank you. That's great. So I don't know if Bibi's comments on the fact that designers alone have limited capacity to drive and to design sustainable product if they're not supported by regulations. How does that? Mm-hmm. Yes.
It does connect with what I was commenting when we were discussing about what do we want to grasp from what the designers provide as value in the transformation in the way we live, and specifically with the challenge on sustainability. Bibi was talking about the starification, the equity, that the designer, if he wants to do things differently, he has to do it on his own name. So I don't see starification as a negative thing if it's the only way to actually get a point across that would be not what is the current economy willing. So it's a good way to actually take and instrumentalize what is being given to you for doing it. But what he was bringing, it's a much more discrete way in which design can provide an incredible capacity, is when we can see this very local and very, I would say, very underground, very not under the ground, but not seen, but very impactful on the territory level, on a local level, on a cultural level. What is missing here is when we talk about those craftsmanship or crafts and skills that we were discussing with Ken, and also what I know what Bibi is doing, it's a wonderful and very poetic work also. But by leveraging what is at hand, it's typically the design value. What is missing is legs, is scale. It's how designers can promote a new economy. And to do so, yes, one obvious thing, as you described it, Bertrand, is to probably have designers, but probably not just designers, to act on design policies, on public policies, on government policies, to encourage education, to actually, as he says, train more designers, architects, and in this case, maybe there will be some very impactful effect on the market. But I think designers have to close a gap. We are working in an economy of no scales now, okay? What was the economy that we just finished is the economy of the industrial era, in which a model had to be, for being valuable, to be produced in a very large amount. With the digitalization, with the capacity we have to actually own back our skills and knowledge as designers, there are this ability for us to do and grow an economy of no scales. This is through digital. What it means, it doesn't mean that we have to do things digitally and virtually, like, things that will be just moving us away from materials. No, it's to understand and script, we call it maybe new gamification of the numeric. If the numeric is only take the tech content and is not taking what designers does, the numeric will be just lacking all what makes us human. So the designers have to actually work and grow a new grammar in the numeric and digital world. It's the only way to continue to grow, but also impact the economy. I know it looks maybe very meta level, but with Bibi, we remember we work at Renault together. What was very strong at the time, we were not really focused on sustainability, was our ability to work together and grow all the expertise together to do the best car ever. At the time, we just wanted to make a car to sell, or a good car. What is not, what I mean by that is something that the economy was placing at the time is the way the designers can act within the economy in the process. We have to find that same exact new place for designers in this new economy. It's an economy of no scale. It's an economy where natural and valorization of nature have to come into play. I don't know if it will be capitalism or something else, but it has to be an action that designers should do.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne, for that perspective. Yes, please, Bibi.
Bibi.
Oui, non, je rajouterais qu'il y a un truc quand même qui est important. Quand tu es au Sénégal, il est encore plus facile, pour un simple banc, par exemple un stool, pour s'asseoir, il est encore moins cher d'avoir un banc qui est fabriqué en Chine, en plastique en une seule fois, que d'avoir un banc en bois fabriqué par des menuisiers locaux. Donc, on se retrouve avec un dilemme où le designer, s'il est dans le bon environnement, il pourrait créer des produits qui seraient fabriqués sur place, ce qui créerait des emplois, au service d'une industrie qui serait installée dans ce but-là. Mais aujourd'hui, la population, la majorité de la population a tellement de faibles revenus que lorsque tu vas au marché, tu vois des énormes sacs de linge qui viennent d'Europe, d'occasion, de second-hand. Tu vois des produits, des chaussures qui reviennent que tu peux acheter à $2. je vais dire, qui sont fabriqués en Chine ou en d'autres pays d'Asie du Sud-Est. C'est-à-dire qu'on est aussi... quand tu fais un meuble avec ton menuisier, même en plastique, moi-même, j'ai un problème avec les meubles qui sont fabriqués au Sénégal en plastique recyclé parce qu'ils sont quand même encore trop chers. Euh, un meuble, un tabouret, il reviendrait par exemple à 50 $, mais si tu veux rentrer ce produit-là dans la façon comment les Sénégalais mangent, ils sont assis en rond autour d'un bol, il faudrait que le foyer s'achète 5 ou 6 tabourets. C'est-à-dire que l'environnement n'est pas propice à
Oui,
ça. C'est-à-dire
oui.
que c'est pour cela qu'il faut, bon, évidemment, et quand mais lorsque je dessine, par exemple, un meuble qui est fabriqué en bois, ben, je suis désolé. Le meuble qui est fabriqué en bois, pour la personne l'artisan qui le fabrique ou pour le designer qui le dessine, je veux dire que ce produit n'est pas encore démocratique. Il ne rentre pas, il n'est pas encore populaire.
Oui.
Est-ce que les gens connaissent ici comme des objets populaires? Parce qu'il faut rappeler quand même que le designer conçoit des objets, les objets populaires qui sont à la portée des porte-monnaie des gens qui sont ici. C'est pas un objet qui aurait... Évidemment, certains designers reconnus, etc., participent si tu veux, moi, je vois que Philippe Stark, je lui dis bravo parce que Philippe Stark a rendu notre profession plus noble qu'elle ne l'était avant en France. Mais dans la dure réalité des choses, c'est surtout les produits qui devraient être mis en avant et après les designers qui pourraient les concevoir. On n'est pas assez,
C'est
pas assez
très
démocratique.
intéressant. Et Bibi, ce qui est très intéressant, c'est que tu inverses la position du designer et le produit du designer. Produit qui peut être une expérience, peu importe. Mais mettons le produit. J'aimerais revenir sur le fait qu'aujourd'hui, on essaye de voir comment on pourrait protéger et donc donner des capacités aux designers d'impacter l'économie de demain. Suivre le produit. Les outils de traçabilité et d'éco-conception sont en train aujourd'hui, lorsqu'ils posent le produit dans un écosystème de mondialisation et d'hyperconcurrence, aujourd'hui, il n'y aura pas beaucoup de liberté pour les entreprises qui aujourd'hui te produisent ce fameux banc en Chine à pas cher, quand on va devoir et appliquer des nouveaux régimes de valeur. C'est-à-dire lorsque ce banc devra payer ce qu'il doit légitimement payer, c'est-à-dire de la logistique, une forme très carbonée de déplacement de la matière, des conditions sociales, humaines et environnementales de production qui ne sont pas viables. Aujourd'hui, donc, et je pense que Sabrina pourra construire sur ce sujet-là, à partir du moment où le produit garantit dans ce qu'on appelle le jumeau numérique, c'est-à-dire la façon dont toutes les données qui sont et entourent le produit, la façon dont il est produit, la façon dont il est distribué, si on valorise ça en termes de flux, de stock et de capital de manière légitime, honnête et sincère, la production des bancs en Afrique, au Sénégal, à Dakar, fait par l'artisan local, va prendre toute sa valeur. C'est véritablement quelque chose qui est en train, on parle de beaucoup de Beyond Growth Economy. Je pense que les designers ont les réponses. Aujourd'hui, le système n'est pas là. Le système néolibéral ne l'a pas produit. À nous de montrer l'exemple et probablement de donner les clés pour que on se focus sur les bonnes choses, c'est-à-dire ce qui va pouvoir avoir un impact, directement un impact, et qu'on saura calculer cet impact.
And thank you for positioning this big issue for some local designers. And yes, we're very curious to hear Sabrina's perspective, both from WIPO, but also from other agencies and maybe some from other fields also that must be facing the same types of challenges right now.
Definitely. So I can definitely resonate with what Bibi was saying in relation to some of the challenges that developing countries are facing. I mostly have experience in ethical fashion, so I'll give a little bit of an example of what I've seen with Vivienne Westwood. I mean, she's one of the pioneers on sustainable fashion design, and she has done this Made in Kenya collection exactly because, you know, Kenya imports more than 200,000 tons of secondhand clothes from Europe every year. So and they sell it in the market. So you have this issue of a lot of waste that is ending up in these dump sites. It's burnt on an open fire. So it has severe consequences for people, the environment. And instead of using these secondhand clothes in this way, they are now producing these patchwork tote bags from these secondhand garments. So, you know, this transformation of the product, and then also giving value to the local communities who are there gathering some of these products on the dump sites and making the selection, the teaching, the stitching, so that they can also contribute. So there is that vision of working more holistically. So beyond seeing what is the final product, we start from what is also the impact that that product is going to have in the livelihoods of those who produce it, in the environment, and then also in its consumers. So also thinking about what are some of the ways that we can recycle this garment? Where is it going to end up? You know, because this is where we started, at the dump sites. So it's having a more, as Anne was saying, it's no longer a linear system. And I would think that it's more of a circular system, in that we are building upon materials that have been used and are now being reused. And there are several examples of how different brands and different industries have done it. I also have another example. I mean, because if you think about it, Vivienne Westwood is huge, but even at the SME level, there's this company, Zazie Vintage from the Netherlands. They have worked on this ikat dyeing technique. So ikat is a patterning, like the textiles, on the yarn. So you actually dye the fabric before weaving, and it's very traditional to Central Asia. And they do this in silk, so very expensive material. And then the leftovers are upcycled into headbands. So then using these traditional techniques that have been in Central Asia, particularly in Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, for many years, and then sort of using the leftover pieces for upcycling. So showing that this is being done. And I do agree with Anne that now the big question is, how do we take that to scale? How do we take these examples beyond BB and beyond the Ken to something that is massive and that can actually transform an economy?
I may share an example. Bertrand, I have a very short
seconds,
example.
Yes.
Very small, very small. Waste of high-tech waste in Ghana. We have a designer, we work with him. It's called DK. Currently, you know, the poor people, they are just like gaining their life by just dismantling all of those digital waste, I mean, high-tech waste, to have the copper, I mean, all of those very prestigious materials from TVs, from screens, from cell phone, and so on. And they are just gaining by just providing, you know, just the raw material. And it does not scale, and it makes them to stay in poverty. We were starting a program in which that we were putting together small mobile schools, and because the answer basically is the education. And we were providing to those kids the ability to, through digital, through design, through 3D, to actually learn how to do a washing machine or a new screen or a new telephone. And instead of just like gaining at the level of dismantling those parts and gaining just on the very raw material, their life, they started to actually grow competencies as a becoming just rebuilder of new washing machines and new TV sets and new phones, and making not only a better living, but also gaining a new skill and gaining the capacity to act on the environment. Okay, pretty crappy environment, you know, Ghana, dump of electronic waste, but try to, okay, it's probably a problem of scale and also a problem of time, how long it will take before they're going to be taking all of those waste and transform them into something usable for people. Probably it's a little bit like a mirage, but we are saving those kids. And so WDO, by connecting those vernacular knowledge and enabling the possibility to have that education, not just on school. It's very important to have it on school, but to displace and disperse in a very local and small scale educational level that digital does, because digital could be everywhere. We may basically start to see and grow a new economy in fashion, in high tech, or
very, very interesting. And I guess it's part of the role of both WIPO and WDO to share and support those best practices, case studies, to inspire others. It's my unfortunate role to have to remind us we're coming to the top of the 90 minutes that we had for this webinar. I guess we only initiated a discussion that we'd like to take on much further. So we'll certainly be continuing to share some of those stories and action. I want to thank everyone, Marcus and his team, for their hard work, WDO behind the scene, Dorothea and the rest as well. Also, our speakers, great thanks to Senek and Bibi for your contribution, as well as Hans and Sabrina for joining us into the conversation. It was really enriching. I will now hand over back to World Intellectual Property Organization for closing remarks. I think Sabrina Herzog, it's yours to take on. So thank you again, and please, your closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Bertrand. There's not much for me left to do than just to echo your thanks to our panelists. Personally, I have to say this totally exceeded my expectations. It was great bringing together this group. I think we were able to make new contacts, to have a very fruitful exchange between the IP world and the design world. And I look forward very, very much to continuing this conversation and this dialogue whenever possible. So thanks again for all of you for joining and for contributing. And I wish you all the best wherever you are, and hope to see you soon again in the very near future. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye now. Bye, everybody.